Today, today we are going to cover a very, very nice topic because we are going to talk first of all about the color stones, and second about what is making the color stones so beautiful and so attractive for all the humans. Yes, I know it's a topic we already covered also in the previous seminar, but today we are going to take a different perspective of it. Um, Basically, we try to be more technical, but in the same time, what we are going to do is to translate the technical features in, I would say, benefits for the marketplace. Okay, so first of all, as always, let me also introduce HRD properly. I just remind to all of you, but if you are here, you know very well HRD, but let me say, I remind to all of you all the services we provide in HRD, starting from, of course, the lab services, so the certification, and of course, also going to our department, my department, Anand and I, my department too. I'm talking about education department because I believe it's very important for all of us, especially if we deal daily basis in the market, to have knowledge on our side. Because if we have knowledge, we can face the daily challenge in a better way. And one more important point for HRD is also the equipment, because as you know, HRD is also one of the most important provider for equipment, mainly for the microscopes, but also for the labs. So don't be shy if you need some equipment for you, again, for your daily activity. Please feel free to explore our list of equipment in our website and to know also better about prices and delivery timing, etc. Okay. Said that, let's start properly our seminar, and we start talking about the coral stones. As I introduced you before, when coral stones are, let's say, very, very important, not only in terms of price or no, or simply in terms of luxury items, etc. They represent something more for the humans, all of us. Okay, basically when I say we start, I mean our ancestors start using the color stones. So like the beautiful tourmaline you see here, maybe not this tourmaline, I mean not the Paraíba tourmaline, but for sure other gemstones and other beautiful gemstones. We start using them to express feelings, okay, to identify something we have inside and to show it outside. This is the key. This is exactly the key to understand why, as a human, we are so attracted by the color stones, because they are simply not minerals or crystals, they are symbol. And it's like that since I told you, the dawn of our civilization. Of course, in the progress of the time, we start giving them different meanings. And today, we cannot say it's not like that, but today, for example, color stones are representing not simply our emotions, our feelings, or a moment we use to underline a special occasion in our life, but also representing a status symbol. Okay. Um, how we can understand the cornerstones. I mean, now let me start being more technical. How we can understand better the cornerstones. And if you want, let's start for another question. What is gemmology? Gemmology, despite many definitions I heard in more than 30 years of working, gemmology is a meeting point. I like a lot this expression. I'm reading now the title of the slide. It's a meeting point between science and emotions. I love it. I like this definition. Why? Because when we talk about meeting point, we mean that it's a moment where all the science are meeting the purpose of the color gemstones. In this case, we may also include diamond if you want. When we say scientific word, we mean basically, for example, just for example, the chemical composition, the crystal structure, the optical properties, the geological origin, and more. When we talk about emotions and feelings, basically remember that the gemstones, when we wear a gemstones, when we show a gemstones, we do it because the stone is beautiful, for example, because the stone can identify our special moment in our life, because it's a symbol of luxury. And because can just remember us what we did, maybe a wedding or maybe in the newborn of a baby or something like that. Okay. Otherwise, we may say, to reply to the questions I ask, no? I ask to all of us what gemmology is. Um, Gemmology is exactly, and normally I like to say that, it's exactly a segment with two extremities. In one extremity, we have the science. And when I say the science, I mean physics, chemistry, geology, and so on. And on the other side, we have the marketplace. So a gemologist can be a profile acting in this segment at the very extremity of the science or the very extremity of the marketplace. So all of us, we can find our space of work, our space of work in this distance, ideal distance. What is making a mineral, a crystal, a gemstone? At this point, let's go deep in this direction. Now we understood gemmology, now let's understand also the gemstones. Normally, we used to say that for a crystal to be a gemstone, it's important the crystal to have three main pillars, let's say that. The three main pillars are basically the beauty, and we mentioned it already, the rarity, and the durability. What is the beauty of a gemstone? What do we mean when we say beauty? Please, first point, don't take it as a personal view of an item. I mean, we are not talking about our um, uh, if let's say that we are not saying if we like or not a gemstones. We are talking a very objective beauty of the item. And when we talk about beauty in gemstones, again, it's a technical factor. Right? It's not simply, I told you, our perspective or a way to our personal view. We talk about color, transparency, luster, and symmetry. Color. Of course, color is a symbol again. It's a symbol of emotions. From the red of the passion to, I don't know, to the green of peace of mind, or to the blue, for example, of a sapphire. But we have also a way to read technically the color, and we will see it later. When we talk about the transparency, we are talking about the light, if the light can pass through a crystal. So if the light can be transmitted through a crystal. And of course, as a human, we like transparent gemstone. And the transparency became very technical when we are literally grading a colored gemstones. For example, if I have, like in the picture, an emerald, not fully transparent, it became a factor in terms of beauty and terms of technical aspect. Okay, but if I have a lapis, I cannot ask to a lapis to be transparent. I have to follow the nature of the stone, and the nature of the lapis is to be opaque. Okay. When we are talking about luster, again, luster is always a factor coming from the interaction between the light and the crystal. We are on the surface of the crystal. Better if we talk about a polished crystal, so we are talking about a gemstone at this point. And the luster is the quantity and the quality of light reflected from the surface of our gemstones. If you can follow my mouse, if you see this facet here, we have an example of luster. The combination of luster and color is a very powerful combination. As a human, we are strongly attracted by that. Not by case, the highest grade of luster among the transparent gemstone is adamantine. And try to guess who's coming with adamantine luster? Only one gemstone, diamond. When we talk about symmetry, then at this point we are talking about a fully polished gemstone. And when we say symmetry, we are comparing the same parts of polished gemstones, and what we want is for them to be equal. For example, here we have a beautiful citrine gemstone. If ideally I'm going to divide the stones in two parts vertically, starting from the M of symmetry in the text, what I will expect is that the left side is equal to the right side or vice versa. Okay. Again, these four factors, or color, transparency, luster, and symmetry, remember, are not related to our taste, to the individual, are objective factors making building the beauty of a gemstone. Okay, no matter if it is a ruby, an emerald. Again, now I'm following the line of the stones we have in the slide. Ruby, emerald, or a citrine. Okay, let's go to the next one, because the next pillar we are going to talk about and making a mineral, a crystal, a gemstone is the rarity. When we talk about the rarity, we are talking about not simply the availability of material in nature, also the chance we have to recover it. I mean, if it is easy or not to recover that material in nature. Okay. And not simply that, because we have also to consider one more level of rarity, the quality, because probably material can be also abundant in our planet. But if the quality required for that material to enter in gemology is not so easy to find, then of course we have to talk about rarity again. Okay, in this image we have this beautiful red beryl, for example, the rough you can see here. Now I'm using the mouse again to underline it. This beautiful red beryl, Bix Vitae, we can find in nature. It's very rare, but we can find it. But there is a problem. So just to give you an image of the rarity, we can find it in a very small size. Even the one you have in the picture here, it's very small. We are talking about a few, but literally few millimeters, sometimes 20, 30, 40, 50 millimeters. But this is the average size. So it means that we cannot have a protection of gemstones according to the availability in terms of the size of that material. Okay, or we may talk about the sphin. The other one, the round you can see here, it's very beautiful. The sphin is among my favorite gemstones. The sphin is very beautiful. It's very rare. And I want to use the sphin to introduce another point. Beauty and now rarity are building the value of the stone. But when we talk about the value, we are not talking about the price. Okay, we are just simply talking about take it as it is, the meaning as it is, the value of the gemstone. For example, the value of the sphin, this is why I'm introducing now this topic, is very high because it's very rare. It's very beautiful, as you can see. It's very rare in nature, but there is no demand in the marketplace. So the price cannot be too high. Otherwise, people doesn't buy it at all. They cannot succeed, let's say that, in the marketplace. Okay. One more pillar, it's durability. When we talk about durability, we are talking about the chance. Let's say that. Of course, it's a matter of three factors inside the durability, but let me give you an overview first. We are talking about the chance for our crystal or mineral and then gemstone to survive to the use of it. What is the use of a gemstone? To wear it, to put it, to set it in a jewelry item, and then to wear it daily basis or for special occasions, whatever. Okay. We measure the durability of a gemstone according to the hardness, toughness, and stability. The hardness is how well gemstones resist to scratches. And we use the famous scale of Mohs to measure the hardness of all minerals and crystals. Just to remind you, the scale of Mohs goes from 10 to 1. 10 is the highest grade possible, and at the grade 10 we have diamonds. And then, for example, ruby, so corundum and so on, ruby, sapphire, and other corundums, they are 9 as a grade for the hardness. So the harder, or if you want, the hardest is a diamond. When we talk about toughness, we are talking about how well a gemstones resist to breaking, chipping, or cracking. Okay. Here, for example, diamond is not the most tough gemstone we know. Just to give you an insight of it, jadeite is very tough, and according to the scale of toughness, the scale of toughness goes from excellent, very good, good, fair, and poor. According to the scale, the jadeite is excellent, while diamond is simply very good. Why that? Because some stones, some crystals, including diamond, for example, they come with very specific weakness direction inside the crystal. So we call them cleavage. Some stones, some crystals are coming with two cleavage directions, other one with one. Diamond, for example, is coming with four. So this is making diamond not so tough compared, for example, to jadeite. Jadeite, on the other side, is an aggregate. So it's made of tiny crystals, completely interconnected together. And this is making so tough the jadeite. When we talk about stability, we are talking about how well gemstones can resist to the temperature, to the pressure, and to the chemicals. Why it's so important to keep together these three factors, and then we may say the durability, because if a gemstone can be also very beautiful, can be also very, very, very rare, extremely rare, but if it is not able to survive to the human use, that crystal cannot be really a gemstone. Cannot be. We cannot use it in our marketplace. Okay, so this is the problem. Every time I see, even online, even on the socials, in many places, I see a new gemstone coming out. Fine, the new gemstones can be beautiful, can be rare, but did we check? Because most of the time, who is promoting this kind of new gemstones, they are not really checking the hardness, the toughness, and the stability. So again, can be extremely beautiful, can be extremely rare, but if we cannot use it in gemmology, I mean, in the jewelry industry, it's not really a gemstone. It's again a beautiful crystal, a rare and beautiful crystal. Okay. Okay. Now, let's focus how these three pillars, so beauty, rarity, and durability, can literally build the value of the stone. Basically, I told you, I'm just giving you the examples I mentioned before. I already told you, but let's recap everything for a moment. When we talk about value, again, we are not talking about price. Price is another operation, it's another story, completely different from the value of the stone. The value is a grade exactly of beauty, rarity, and durability together. If one of these grades is zero, the crystal, the mineral, whatever it is, cannot be a gemstone because it doesn't have value, or the value is not enough, we may say that, to enter properly in the gemmology and jewelry industry. Okay. Okay. Oh, I'm not giving you any chance now, sorry, to ask questions, etc. We will do at the end of our seminar. At the end of our seminar, we will open, as always, the canonical session question and answer, and you will be free to ask anything you have in mind. Okay, so just be patient. I see some comments, etc., but we will go through at the end of the seminar. Okay, let's enter now in the color. Remember, no? Now we have the coordinates. We talk about beauty, rarity, durability, and so altogether they compose, they are the value of a gemstone. Inside the beauty, we mentioned the color. So now let's go deep inside the color of a gemstone. Why it's so important, the color of the gemstones? Again, first of all, because the color is literally hitting some deep parts of our brain, our mind, our heart, if you want. So they are calling back feelings, emotions, memories. So we bond a lot with the color. Colors are symbols. When we grade, and I'm using on purpose this term, grade the color of a gemstone, colored gemstone, we do it following three main factors. One is the hue, and you can read it here in our slide, hue. One is the tone, and one is the saturation. Talking about the hue, basically we recognize 7 hues, the famous 7 hues of the rainbow. So we go from red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet, and purple. This is maybe the biggest difference if we compare the theory of colors with other products or other industries, etc. Remember, we can imagine all the 7 hues in a circle, like you can see in this image, and all the adjacent hues can coexist in a gemstone. What do I mean? We said, for example, red and orange, right? Since they are close in our circle, the red is here, just to be clear, and the orange is here. We may have gemstones coming with a combination of the two hues. One gemstone can be red dominant, so we may have orangey red combination of hues. Another stone can have orange dominant, so we may have a reddish orange combination of hue in that stone. Okay, same story we can have with green and blue, where we see adjacent hues. Again, let me do the three examples leading the marketplace too. So I'm talking about ruby, sapphire, and emerald. Ruby, the fine color of ruby, we will see it also later, but I anticipate a little. The fine color of ruby is slightly purplish red. So it's a combination of red and purple, where the purple is not dominant, but is modifying the presence of the red. If I go to the sapphire, sapphire is slightly violetish blue. So again, the combination of hues is blue and violet, where the blue is dominant. Or if I take the emerald, the combination is slightly bluish green. So again, the green is dominant, but we have also the bluish component in the hues. Okay. We also mentioned that when we grade the color, we use the hue, and we talk about the hue, and we have also the tone. The tone is a scale from light to dark, or if you prefer, to the colorless to the dark, very dark stone. Normally, the grades for the tone are 11. Just imagine that from 0 to 11. But the grades we normally use for the gemstones are basically only 6. We use the light, the medium, and the dark. And we use also the intermediate. So we have also medium light, medium dark, and the very dark after the dark, and the very light before the light. Okay, when we talk about the tone, what we are measuring in terms of light or dark, it's the hue. So taking back one of the examples we did before, the slightly purplish red of a ruby. What we define in terms of light, medium, or dark is exactly the purplish red. Okay. The other factor is the saturation. So hue, tone, and now finally also the saturation. When we talk about saturation, we are talking about the intensity, the strength of the color, of the hue. Forgive me, not for delete color. The strength of the hue. So again, taking back the example of the ruby, we are talking about the strength, the intensity of the purplish red. Okay. And now we have to say something important here. We have to call back also the hues as we saw them before in the circle, in the wheel. Because we used to divide the hues into two categories, the warm hues and the cold hues. The warm hues are basically the red, the orange, the yellow, and the part of the purple. And the cool hues are the green, the blue, the violet, and the other half, let's say, of the purple. Why it's important to have this overview? Because when a warm hue is losing saturation, so it's losing intensity or losing strength, the warm hues became brown. So start having brownish, and if the brown increased, it can be brown, completely brown. Okay, that's why in some gemstones we may have, I don't know, brownish yellow, brownish orange, brownish red. Sometimes we may have also reddish brown or yellowish brown, because it's a meaning to say very low saturation for that hue. And what happened to the cold hues? For the cold hues, instead of brown, we talk about gray. So they may take grayish blue, or bluish gray, for example. I don't know, maybe let me take an example from the diamond world. One of the most famous diamond, the Hope diamond. If you, not now, but later, if you start Google it and you look for the definition of the color of the Hope diamond, you will find out it's grayish blue. Now you know the meaning of that grayish in the definition of color of the Hope diamond. Okay, so as you can see, even from this image, for example, we have many combination of course, hue and tone, but also we may have different combination of saturation in the same species and of course in the same variety. So it means that from here is coming the different value of the same variety of stone. Again, talking about ruby, we may have 10 rubies in front of us coming from the same mine, and we don't care about the mine. It's a random mine. They are coming, all of them are coming from the same mine. But maybe they have different value because they have a different combination of hue, tone, and saturation. Or maybe they have also different, so I can call back what we said before, they have different combination of transparency. One ruby is fully transparent, top of the saturation, medium dark, maximum tone, perfect, slightly blue, slightly purplish red. So top of the top. But the others maybe are semi-transparent. They are losing saturations here and there. So they are not coming with the same beauty, with the same, of course, value at this point. Again, I'm not talking about price. Keep the money, the numbers, in this case, let's say the numbers of the pricing, outside of our conversation for the moment, just for the moment. Okay. Just to close the saturation, because I realized I forgot to tell you, when we talk about saturation, the highest grade possible is vivid. And following vivid, we have strong. Maybe if you are familiar, because it's much more easy and common to find it in the fancy color diamonds, you met already this terminology according to the fancy color diamond grading. Okay. Okay, let's open also a discussion, so give you some inputs also about that, about the origin of the color in the gemstones, in the crystals, basically, but of course our main topic are gemstones. So basically, the cause of color in all the gemstones are different. Many, you may have different reasons of color. Let's go, let me take my red pen. Who is familiar with me knows that I like the red pen. So the first reason of color is the transition chemical element. Okay, what are the transition chemical element? The transition chemical element are chemical elements, of course, belonging to the periodic table. They are called transitions because more or less they are in the middle of the periodic table. But these chemical elements, they are the responsible of the color. And sometimes they are part of the chemical formula of a crystal. But sometimes they are not inside the chemical formula. They are present inside the crystal structure as a trace element. What does it mean, trace element? Simply, I reverse what I told you before, because this is the real definition at the end. When these chemical elements are not in the chemical formula, we call them trace element. Of course, they are present, they are inside the crystal structure. Okay, just to give you an example. Here we have the corundum. The chemical formula of corundum is aluminum taken 2 times and oxygen taken 3 times. No one of them is a transition element. So according to that, corundum should be always colorless. But then we have the beautiful blue of sapphire, and we have also the beautiful red of ruby. So how it's possible? Because corundum may have as a trace element chromium, for example. Chromium is the responsible of the beautiful red of the ruby, or can have as a trace elements iron and titanium. And the combination of iron and titanium is responsible of the beautiful blue in sapphire. Okay. And then it's not simply the presence of the transition elements. It's also important how they interact. Mm? Normally to my students, I used to say the transition elements are like the tennis players. They play with a ball. They used to take a ball and play with it. What is this ball? It's what we call more technically and more properly, of course, charge transfer. It's an electron. So in the way they exchange the electron can be also responsible of color in the color gemstones. Okay. Last, but very important reason are the structural defects, what we call distortion. If the crystal structure is not perfect, then it's possible that any deformation, any distortion can cause a different selective absorption of the light, so different colors. When we say colors, remember, we're talking about the combination of hue, tone, and saturation, always. Okay? When we talk about rarity, as we said before, we are talking about a different level of rarity. Now we explore, just to keep you on track on what we are saying, we explore the color as a factor inside the beauty. Now we take back also the rarity and we explore the one point of the rarity, the geological rarity. It's a very important topic. Why? Because it's very actual topic. Why again? Because many of the final consumer don't know or they never thought about that for a natural crystal, simply to grow up and to exist, I would say, it's a matter of a lot of factors acting together. And mainly of that, it's a matter of time. Normally, when I'm introducing this lesson in our course, in our color gemstones course, I'm used to say for the crystal to come to us in our hands, it's important to have or to grow following 5 factors. The first 2 factors are temperature and pressure, always. Okay. But then we have 3 more factors. First, one more is about the chemical elements. If there are not the proper chemical elements building the structure of the crystal, that crystal cannot be a gemstone and cannot come to us, cannot arrive to us. And then there are 2 more factors. One is the space, the room. If there is not enough space, the crystal can grow, of course, but cannot reach the proper size to become a gemstone, to be polished. Think at the case of the Bixby, the red berry we saw before. One more factor is the time. Yes, I know today our society goes very fast. And probably this is another reason why the synthetic materials are succeeding so much. Because for a synthetic crystal, maybe it's enough of a few days to grow up. But when we talk about natural crystals, it's not a matter of days. It's not even a matter of weeks or months or years. It's a matter of many, many years. I wish to say millions of years. Okay, so when we have an object coming from the nature, a crystal, a gemstone coming from the nature, and we set it in a gemstone, in a jewelry items, now you can also understand the rarity in terms of geological growing and formation and so on. Okay, imagine that the stone, maybe you have a jewelry item on you in this moment. The stone you have there, the natural stone you have there, took millions of years, not simply to grow up, but also to reach the proper size and the proper quality to become then a gemstone. Okay. Again, said that, remember, we are not talking about money. So, for example, here we have a very particular stone. I want to stop for a moment on this beautiful red stone because this is what we call pineite. It's a beautiful red stone coming from Myanmar, and not so recent discovery because we know the pineite since the middle of the previous century, something like the 50s or the 60s of the previous century. It's very rare. it's extremely very rare. And many times, from, I told you, from the middle of the previous century till today, dealers tried to insert, really to put the pineapple inside the marketplace and try to sell it. But what is the problem? Since it's so rare, the price is very high. It's extremely very high. And so there is no demand, especially maybe this is something I always thinking about. It's coming from the same locality, the same country of ruby, and the color can be red, can be very similar to the color of ruby. So let's say that the pine nut has a very strong competitor, too strong competitor to survive inside the marketplace. But if again, if you not now, later, if you try to Google it, you find a lot of news, a lot of comments about. In any case, it's very beautiful one. Okay. Um, when we talk about rarity, and now we use a direct example. Remember, we said there is rarity in terms of availability of the material in nature, in our planet. So, for example, the pine nut is extremely rare, but there is also a level of rarity when we consider the quality. So it's the case not only of the emerald we are looking at now or the most important gemstones, it's valid for all the gemstones. In particular, here we are looking at the Rockefeller emerald. I don't know if you know it. It's one of the most beautiful emerald ever. Just to give you an idea, now we talk about the numbers and price. Since this emerald is meeting the perfect combination of color, transparency, and we may say also symmetry, and we can also talk about luster, of course, so beauty, but also meeting all the requirements of rarity because it's an emerald, so it's very rare. And since the quality is so high, it's much more rare compared to other emeralds. The value is crazy, and the high value is reflecting also the crazy price because the price is 5.5 millions, but we are talking about 9, 10 years ago. So it was sold in Christie's in 2017. Yes, now I'm reading the slide for 5.5 millions, a crazy price. Same, we may say, for this exceptional, very beautiful stone. We are talking about the Stella de Fura. It's a ruby. It's very beautiful ruby. And also for this ruby, we are talking about the perfect meeting, the perfect matching of beauty, of rarity. And so the value is high. It's very crazy. Okay, let's go deep inside the most important, or whatever, the most sold and purchased gemstones in the marketplace. So we face now the cases of ruby and emerald, sorry. And we try to understand all the coordinates in terms of beauty and rarity applied to the generic profile of these gemstones. Let's start with the corundum, and let's start with the variety ruby. Let me open this bracket because I said many times something now, species and variety. So let's clarify also this point, otherwise I'm scared you cannot follow me. When we say species, we are talking about all together minerals sharing the same chemical formula and the same crystal structure. So for example, corundum is a species, but then inside the species, we may have different varieties, and the varieties are identified according to the color, for example, or to the transparency, or like this beautiful star ruby, according to the presence of a phenomenon. So, for example, inside the species of corundum, we have the ruby variety because of the red color. So all the red corundum are called rubies. If we have the blue variety in corundum, that variety is called the sapphire, and so on. We have also the famous paparasha, when we have a mix of orange and pink, for example. What is making the ruby so exceptional, so I would say unique? First of all, the color. As we said before, the fine color is slightly purplish red. Now let's complete the definition, adding also the medium to medium dark tone and vivid saturation. Now, in the moment we explore the definition of ruby in terms of color, of course, you can find yourself, because we are coming from the definitions of U-tone and saturation. Okay. Again, for a corundum to be called ruby, the red must be always dominant. Okay. The origin of the color is the trace element called chromium, as we saw before. And one of the most important origin, geological origin and geographical origin of ruby is Myanmar. We are in Burma. We are in Mogok. By the way, we may say also that the ruby is coming from different rock formation. So, for example, it's a typical product in metamorphic processes when we have the formation of marble. And this is the case of Mogok in Burma. But we may have also ruby as a xenocrystal inside basalt. And this is the typical example of Thailand. And there is a difference. So the stone is the same, but the geological origin is producing differences in terms of beauty of the stone. Because in the metamorphic process, in the metamorphic origin of the ruby, we have a lot of chromium and very low amount of iron. And the chromium is the responsible of the red. In the basalt deposit, we have, again, chromium, otherwise we don't have the red of the ruby, but we have a lot of iron. And the iron is increasing the purple, the famous purplish. So it's not slightly purplish, but it's strongly purplish red. And this difference in the color, so from the slightly purplish red mogok to the typical Thai strong purplish red, we may have a huge difference in value. And so on, the value then can reflect also the huge difference in the final price. Okay. Oh, just to give you an example how also the color can not simply identify the value of a material, of a variety, but it can also identify the identity of the variety. What do I mean? I mean, when I start my career in gemmology, we are talking about 1998, something like that, the field of existence of ruby was from red to a strongly purplish red. Finished. But in 2004, we discovered some geologists and mining companies discover, however, they already know, but they start operating in Tanzania, in the famous Windsor in Tanzania, and many orangey red corundum start coming out from there. And this huge volume of stones coming from Tanzania, from Windsor, forced also the gemmologist to open the field of existence of ruby. And now, today, in the existence of ruby, we also include orangey red. But again, as you can see, the red is always dominant. Okay. Let's go to emerald, because I want to take back this topic, because for emerald is even more delicate than ruby. Again, when we talk about emerald, let's give the proper coordinates. Emerald is the green variety of beryl. Beryl is the species. We have many brothers and sisters, many siblings for emerald, like aquamarine. Aquamarine is the combination of green and blue, always in the species of beryl, or morganite. Morganite is the pink variety. Oh, just to mention a stone that is basically unknown, we have also the goshenite inside the species of beryl. The goshenite is the colorless variety. Okay. Going deep in the emerald, remember, the fine color of emerald is vivid bluish green, medium dark, or ideally, let's say, not too dark and not too light. Why I'm specifying not too dark and not too light? When I say not too dark, it's just a matter of quality. If I have a bluish green dark, It's too dark, so it's not a nice and beautiful stone. But when I look at the opposite direction, so to the light or lighter direction, it's a matter of identity. Because if I have a green color, even bluish green, but very light or light, it's not an emerald anymore. So the tone, now you also can touch the importance, the relevance of the tone. The tone can make the difference between two green berries. One can be an emerald and the other one cannot be if the tone is too light. Okay. Even we may say the same according to the emerald, also talking about the combination of hues. Because if we have green, it's okay, it's an emerald. If we have bluish green in any combination, I mean, the bluish can be slightly or strong, but still, if we have green dominant, it's an emerald. If we have yellowish green and the yellowish is too much, let's say it's very abundant, it's all very visible, easy to see, then it's not an emerald anymore. So as you can see, it's not simply a matter of value, but it's also a matter of identity, of course. We may always say value because between a green berry and an emerald, there is a huge distance in terms of value. The green emerald, it's also easy in terms of rarity to find more than the emerald. Okay. As we did for the ruby, let's also mention some very important location in the world where we find the emeralds. Of course, the most important in our present time is Colombia, but we have also different locations in Africa. For example, Zambia, Zimbabwe. Let me say something interesting here. Maybe a topic you can use if you are selling or buying gemstones, so you can use it. As we will see in a few, one of the factors building the price of a gemstones is the geographical origin. And talking about the geographical origin, in gemology, we have the historical source of a gemstone. For example, the historical source of a diamond is Golconda in India. The historical source of ruby, we mentioned before, it's Mogok in Burma. And the historical source of emerald, in our present time, the most important source of emerald is Colombia. Fine, right. But if we have to explore the historical source, now completely finished, expired, no more emeralds from there, it's not Colombia. The historical source of emerald is Egypt. So why to me it's a very important, interesting topic? Because it opens to a new view of the stone. Because we used to think it's a typical stones coming from the South America culture. We mentioned Colombia, but also Brazil is a very important country in terms of emerald. But if we consider the historical perspective of emerald, it's also very important stones coming from the Mediterranean culture. Okay. So it opens to different horizons how to perceive or how to literally see the emerald as a gemstone. Okay, okay. Let's go toward the conclusion, but before, let's combine all the things we said together. Now let's reach literally the ending point of our seminar, because I played a little with the slide, and I like to offer you two formulas, two mathematical formula. Of course, it's I'm playing with you, but just for you to have a better view of the marketplace, how to translate at this point literally all the technical features we talked about until now. Basically, when we talk about the value, and now we said many times, the value of its gemstones is coming from beauty, rarity, and durability. So this is the first mathematical formula we are going to see together. Now let's also talk properly about price. So from where the price of a gemstone is come? From the value and, of course, from the demand, from the final consumer. So if we want also to play a little and offer the the mathematical formula for the price, it's value plus the demand. Of course, we have also other many factors that are really affecting the final price of the gemstones. Geographical origin, as we mentioned even just a few minutes ago, no? Talking about, for example, the historical origin, the certification. This is a key point because in our present time, it's extremely dramatically important to sell and buy any kind of gemstones with a certificate, with a lab report. The grading also, it's very important factor. Why? Because we used to think that the grading is only for diamonds, the famous 4Cs, blah, blah, blah. No, we have grading also for the color stones. And the grading for the color stones is passing through, for example, the color, the hue, tone, and saturation. But not only that, it's passing through also the transparency. Okay, and of course, the carat weight, and then we can also talk about the cut, the shape, the style, and so on. But also for the color stones, staying inside the cut grading, we have the question of the symmetry, the polish, but we have also the matter of the critical angle. Because as for diamond, even for every single species, we have a specific critical angle. And so the cutter, the polisher, should always know very well the critical angle of each species according to realize a very nice and beautiful stone. Sorry, let me open also here a small window. When we talk about critical angle, we are talking about the optical properties of the crystal. So how the crystal is refracting and reflecting the light. Okay, and this is affecting basically the famous proportions normally the polisher use to realize the final gemstone. Treatments. Of course, treatments is another key factor affecting the price. Because I may have also beautiful ruby, slightly purplish red, coming from Mogok. So matching also the geographical origin and the historical source. With a very nice lab certificate with the full grading done. But if it is treated and it's treated, so if I compare it with the same stone, let's say we have two stones, one is identical to the other one, but one is treated and the other one not treated, can have an increment of price very difficult, literally very difficult to calculate. Many, and we saw the Rockefeller, the emerald before, and we saw also the Estrella de Fura ruby before. Many stones are coming with an history. Because they cross centuries, for example, or they have been in the hands of some very famous people, VIP, actor, actress, and so on. So also the history of the gemstones can increase the price. Okay. And then we have the market perception. What do we mean with the market perception? It means that we, in our society, global society, we have a fluctuation. In few moments, we may have a color driving the trend, or in other times, we may have a specific gemstones calling for a new trend, and so on. Okay, just to give you some ideas, we are coming from the pink, what I used to call the pink trend. So whatever it was pink, according to the gemstones, so diamonds or kunzite. Kunzite is very beautiful pink variety of spodumene, or even pink sapphire, or even the famous patparasha, the one you can see here, this image. So whatever the stones were having something, say, with the pink, the prices were too high or were exceeding the normal prices in the marketplace. Okay. So when we translate the value of the gemstones in price, we have to take care. And now we close our seminar. We have to take care about the demand. And remember, the demand is always related to where we are. So we cannot compare the demand of Europe with US or China, or we cannot simply compare, if we are inside Europe, the demand according to Italy, to Switzerland, to France, Belgium, and so on. Okay, every single place, sometimes it's a matter of cities, not even a country, or sometimes it's a matter of areas in the same cities. So demand is a very, very critical point. And let's add also the factors we mentioned before. Okay. In terms of, let's say, gemstones and humans bond, I may say that it's a bond unbreakable. There is no way to break it. Yes, now looking at the natural gemstones, we are, say, suffering a little because we have the presence of synthetic material. Not only diamond, also in the color gemstones. To be honest, the first synthetic gemstone is ruby, coming from the end of, sorry, the beginning of the previous century, even earlier. So we have the presence of synthetic materials, but remember the bond between the natural gemstones and humans, it's unbreakable because of the significant, the meaning, the symbolism we give as a human to the colored gemstones. And let's include also diamond in this. Why? Because, as we said, they are the symbols of our feelings, our emotion, and we can identify our feelings and our emotions in the color they are coming with. Okay, so we may say that, just to close our journey together today, that let me read the last sentence because I like it a lot. Because the gemstones are the nature's masterpiece, and their value is created where geology meets the human emotion. Okay, said that, I officially close our seminar, but before I want to show you our promotion for August. So if you really like to enroll in our courses, don't miss this opportunity because we have special offers and special discount for all of you attending this seminar. So if you can do a picture or a screenshot of this slide, and then you can enroll and save also some money in our courses. Okay, I just remind you that we have courses we teach in our three main hubs. So we are in Antwerp for Europe, in Belgium. We are in Dubai for the full Middle East, and in Mumbai for the full India. If you need more information, if you want to talk to our people in our secretariat, feel free to contact our Tina, our Lily, myself, Anand, all of us. We are very happy to give you all the details, all the information, the requirements you may need. And follow us on the socials. We really care to feel your presence with us. Okay, said that, I'm going to stop the sharing and okay. I'm ready to the rain of questions you may have. So, Anand, I don't know how it works. We have to open the microphone.
Yeah, they can also type in the chat, or if they can raise the hand, I can also unmute them to speak. So it can work in both the ways. If they are comfortable to
Okay.
write their question in the chat, I can read it out for you. And also they can raise hand so I can unmute them so that they can speak as well.
Okay, so don't be shy. Ask all the questions you want to Anand and not to me. No, I'm playing with you. No. Please ask all the questions you want, and I'm happy to reply to you. We touch many topics, to be honest. So feel free to ask whatever you have in mind. Completely open session.
Fabio, you can see the question. We got the first question for you.
Okay, from Anonymous. What are the
Yeah.
cornerstones should we buy for investment? Nice question. It's $1 million question. By the way, what I'm going to say now is valid for all the gem materials, including diamonds. Okay. If we want to do an effort and look at the gemstones as investment, the only way, by definition, investment means that we are going to take back what we invest in terms of money. So the only way to take back what we invest is to move with very exceptional gemstones. What do I mean? If we are inside the color stones, we're talking about basically rubies, sapphires, and emeralds, and they must be above 5 carats, better if they are above 7 carats, and they must be not treated, and the geographical origin must be the historical source. So ruby, Mogok, emerald, in this case, Colombia, even if it's not historical, but it's the most important in our time. And for sapphire, it must be Kashmir. Mm. Okay, we may also take in consideration the modern sources, like for example for ruby Mozambique, because the present time sources one day will be, no, I don't want to say historical, but at least they can be the most important sources for that kind of species or varieties. Okay. What you suggest to be updated in value of color stones? Okay. Basically, remember when we deal with colored gemstones, with all the gemstones, all including diamond again, we have always to face ourselves. We have to face the treatments. We have to measure ourselves with the treatments. We have to measure ourselves with the to determine the presence or not of a treatment with basic equipment and with basic tools. So for example, it's important you can do a first initial screening using microscopes or even a simple loop. So that's why it's important to be always updated, to study, to follow, if you're not a gemmologist, to follow the course and to become a gemmologist, so you know exactly what to do and what to look for to understand the presence or not of a treatment, even if the origin is natural or synthetic. And sometimes, it's not all the time, unfortunately, but sometimes it's possible even with very our basic tools, like the microscope again, or the UV fluorescence, also to determine the geographical origin, at least to have an hypothesis about the geographical origin. Okay. Okay, now you are speeding too much with the question. I cannot follow all of you, so let me try again. Karen, Fabio, can you recommend a good book if I want to study more about these gemstones in theory? Karen, this is the question I don't know how to answer. You got me. Um, there are not so many books about gemstones and about the proper way to talk about gemstones. Why I say that? Because I'm used to think in terms of gemology, I like to think in terms of integralism. What do I mean? I mean, I give you an example, Karen, to you, to all of you. How many times you heard the amethyst is violet? Amethyst is not a violet gemstone. Amethyst is purple gemstone. So I look this kind of quality in any, of course, course, like our courses, and I look this kind of quality in terms of language and teaching, also in the books. So Karen, if you want, can be a way, a meter to measure the quality of a book every time you meet one. Look for the amethyst. If they declare or if they describe the color of an amethyst as a purple, it's high quality book. If they call an amethyst violet, it's very bad, because it's not facing the topic in the proper way. Okay. To be honest, there is a lack of books, Karen, a huge lack of books. What about lab stones? Can you please give some info comparison? Thank you. We have many synthetic stones. I can do something different if you want. I can give you an overview about synthetic stones. First of all, starting from the definition, when we used to say synthetic crystal, we are talking about a crystal man-made, but with a counterpart in nature. So I may say synthetic ruby So that will be synthetic, man-made, because we have, of course, natural root. Same story for diamond, natural diamond and synthetic diamond. Then we have one more category of man-made crystal. And we are talking about artificial crystal. An artificial crystal is, again, a crystal done by man, man-made, without a counterpart in nature. One of the most typical example is the YAG. The YAG is the yttrium and aluminum garnet. The YAG, when it is colorless, is the best, it was the best imitation of diamond. It was in the 70s. So we are talking about more than 50 years ago. And it is still today, it is one of the best imitation of tanzanite, for example. Okay. When we talk about core stones, synthetic core stones and artificial too, we have two main processes. We have the melt processes and the solution processes to create, to grow the synthetic materials and artificial materials. Okay. And according to the category, melt or solution processes, we have different kind of evidence. And mainly we are talking about inclusions. So using properly the microscope and if we know what to look for, then we can easily determine if the stone is synthetic or natural. Okay, then thanks to you, Christina. I have seen with diamonds such a different terms. Okay, the question is about from Zigurda is about diamond and color stones if they have different inclusion. Yes, yes, we may say that. The kind of inclusions in all the gemstones, including diamonds, are always the same. Okay, what do I mean? I mean, we may have included crystals, we may have breakings, so we may have breaks, etc. But when we talk about diamonds, the way these inclusions are coming in a diamond is completely different from the rest of the world, from the rest of other gemstones. Why? Because diamond has a very unique environment of formation. And we are talking about 200 kilometers below the surface of our planet, very high temperature, more than 1,500 degrees, very high pressure. We are talking about 60,000 atmosphere. So these conditions are so extreme that even the included crystals in a diamond are unique, let's say that of diamond. Okay. Olivier, better if you talk with the administration, with the secretariat. Why not? Maybe it's possible. Then, yes, Ogusan, to become a professional gemologist, I recommend all of you literally to start from a course, starting from a professional course like the one we give in HRD. To become a gemologist, it's important to know the gemology of diamond, plus, of course, diamond grading, and the gemology of the color stones, plus the color stones grading, and very important, it's important to literally know and dominate the identification process. Because gemology is made of three main steps. If you ask me the same questions, let's say in 2015, so 10 years ago, my answer was different. But today, I have to say that gemology has three main steps. Identification, grading, and pricing. Identification is telling you what is the material you have in front of you. Emerald, ruby, diamond, whatever. The grading is giving you the value. Now you know the meaning of value. Okay. And the pricing, of course, is the last operation, and we have to mirror the value of the stone in terms of numbers, in terms of price, in terms of money. Simply that. So in order to proceed fully in the three main steps of gemmology, the only way is to study, literally to study. Okay. Diana, okay. And there are not master stones for colored gemstones. There are many, let's say, improper or trade terms to mean, for example, a specific color in the gemstones. Maybe you heard a lot the famous pigeon blood talking about the color of a ruby, the best, the fine color of a ruby. Some labs also start using this kind of terminology in their own certificate, not substituting the proper terminology, but adding it to the proper terminology. It's something coming from the market. So at the end of the story, the labs should serve the market. So why not? But remember, we cannot, again, we cannot describe the color of a gemstones using trade names or trade terminology. If we are gemmologists, what we have to do is to use the technical terminology, and we can also add to it then the, how do you say, the fancy description or the marketplace terminology, like, for example, the pigeon blood. Why that? I give you a very immediate example. Because when I say pigeon blood color, I'm very sure that no one of you saw the color of the blood of a pigeon fresh cut, with a throat fresh cut. I'm very sure that you never seen it, like me, by the way. So every time I say pigeon blood, I'm creating an image in your mind that has no reference in the real life. So this is why this kind of terminology should be never used. Okay. For all the gemstones, I'm still reading your questions. And I'm not reading the questions, I'm giving you immediately the answer. So that's why you see this kind of breaks in my speaking. We may say that for the color gemstones, it's very easy to be treated. So we have to identify the treatment. Technically speaking, we used to say we have to detect the presence of the treatment, and we have also to disclosure that this is extremely important, the presence of the treatment. Okay. The only way to determine the presence of treatment is to proceed with the identification method. Because identify material means to say what it is, ruby, diamond, emerald, whatever, but to say also if it is natural or synthetic, and to say if it is treated or not treated. And when we identify material and we already have an idea that, for example, it's ruby, we must have a clear view of all the potential treatments that ruby may have. Okay, if we don't have this kind of overview, we fail. It's always like that. Okay. Remember when I told you about the critical angle for every single species? So the polisher should know the critical angle for every single species. Why it's so important? Because if the polisher doesn't know the optical properties of a crystal, the moment they start polishing that crystal, can do a mess. And the mess is that the crystal doesn't have what we call the optical characteristics. When we talk about optical characteristics, we are talking about basically the visual beauty of a material. So we talk about the light return, because what we want for the light to do with the gemstones is to enter from the top part of the gemstones, to be reflected at least 2 times inside the pavilion, and then goes out again from the crown, so from the top part of the stones, because our eyes are always above the top part of the stone. If there is no light return, the stone is a mess. I don't want to use any other kind of word. It's literally a mess. It's ugly stone. Okay, and when among the ugliness of a stone, we have the see-through. What do I mean? If a stone is acting like a table of glass, a tablet, for example, of glass, so we clearly see through it, then it means it's not well cut. Okay. We don't have to be scared about the treatments because the treatments are a part of our industry. We have to live together. We have to simply to identify, to detect the presence of a treatment and to disclose the treatment. Even diamond may come with treatments. Rubies, we may say that 99% of the rubies are heat treated. They are literally exposed to temperature to improve, to modify and improve the color. Same we may say for the sapphire, 99% of the sapphire are heat treated. For the emerald, we may say that the 99% are fracture filled. So what we can do is to insert inside the fracture. Fractures are typical inclusions in emerald. What we can do is to insert inside the fracture a filler in order for the fracture to disappear to our eyes. Of course, the fracture is still there, but we don't see it clearly anymore. So somehow we are acting not on the color of the emerald when we play the fracture filling treatment, but we are acting on the transparency. Remember, in terms of beauty, color, transparency, and so on. Okay. Okay. How do your lab identify name of color for Parparasha Sapphire? Yana, this is very good question. Parparasha. Parparasha is one of the variety of corundum. And to be honest, if we look at East culture, especially the Indian and Sri Lankan culture, Parparasha can be also more valuable than ruby or sapphire. Okay. Parparasha, by definition, must be 50% orange, 50% pink. So orange, pink, pink, orange. If there is a dominant pink or a dominant orange, according to the tradition, it's not a Parparasha. Okay. Unfortunately, Parparasha is so rare that the majority of the stones called Parparasha in the market are coming with or a pink dominant or orange dominant. So we are watching a phenomenon very similar to the one I told you about the rubies. When we introduced the orangey red in the range of color of range of hues of ruby. So probably also for the Parparasha, we will have to open to the orangey pink and the pinkish orange in terms of range of hues. But if we want to stick on the tradition, 50-50. 50% orange and 50% pink. Okay. Yana, I hope I replied to your question. If not, feel free to ask again. Okay. Okay, more questions if you want. I don't see more question. Okay, no, sorry, there is one more. From Diana. Yes, all the labs must. This is they really the basic work. All the lab must detect and of course must disclosure the treatment in a stone, no matter again if it is diamond, ruby, sapphire, whatever it is. This is the part of the job of a lab. Absolutely. And from Augustan also we after completing the HRD gemmology course, what career paths are available? Yes. Many directions we may take as a gemmologist, fresh gemmologist or veteran gemmologist. There are many directions we may take. I put also myself in, I'm including also myself. We can work as, let me take back my opening. Gemmology, just imagine, it's a line, a segment. From one side, we have the science. From the other side, we have the marketplace. So we may allocate ourselves everywhere in this line. So very close to the science. So for example, working in a lab. Working in the lab means working in identification of the gem materials or working in the grading of the gem materials. Okay, in the moment we say working in the labs for the grading, we just move a little bit more toward the marketplace because the grading is an operation to determine the value of a stone and so on. Then, now you understood also the price there. Or we can work purely on the other side of our ideal segment. So in that case, as a gemmologist, we can work fully in the marketplace. So when we talk about marketplace, we are talking about auction houses, we are talking about companies, big, medium, very small size companies. We can work with the polished gem materials. We can work with the rough gem materials, even if with rough it's much more difficult. And really, again, we are shifting toward the scientific side of gemmology because the rough requires a very scientific approach. Um, we can work as, for example, a profession I always like is the buyer. So for the company, the gemologist can be also the official buyer, go around the world and buy, spend, let's say that money in buying gemstones. Okay. Okay. Where can we buy the rare color gemstones? High quality gem, based on your comment. Where? Where? I cannot answer to your question, Kun, because however, I can answer, but not mentioning names of companies, etc. But I can answer you also in another way. So I can take the occasion to give you one more information, technical information, I mean. Uh, the marketplace, the worldwide, the global market for the gemstones now is very different from the past, changed a lot. In the past, there was more structure, more, I would say, limits in access, I mean, access to the different company level companies in the supply chain. Now, even for the final consumer, it's possible to climb the supply chain and reach a high level of a wholesaler, for example. When I say high level, I don't mean quality or distance. I mean simply the position in the supply chain. So the highest position in the supply chain. So it means that even for the final consumer, it's easy to have access to better price. And also, if the final consumer has knowledge, also to good quality or high quality of job materials. But it's not the case. I close my answer in this way. In our present time, even if we have easy access to different levels of the supply chain, if we don't have knowledge on our side, we don't go anywhere. Even if we are a consumer, if we are companies, we represent companies, big, very huge companies or small size company, knowledge is the key to succeed in our present time because we have too many treatments, too many synthetic opportunities, let's say that. We have too many variants that it's without knowledge, we cannot go literally anywhere, literal. So it's important to have a personal, individual education before face, I would say literally face the marketplace. Okay, for the Parparasha again, Yana is asking how do we, let's say, write in terms of technical terminology the color of Parparasha. Yana, basically the fine color of Parparasha is medium dark tone, uh, strong saturation, orange pink orange. So if you want to use the abbreviation, we have to say O, capital O for orange and capital P for pink. Pink, by definition, it's not one of the 7 hues we saw before. Pink, it's simple, a very special combination of red and purple or only purple, a combination of medium tone and medium high saturation. So when the red or the purple or the red and purple together are losing just a bit of saturation and they are losing the tone too, so they reach a medium light tone, the color coming out, the hue coming out is the famous pink. So that's why for the Parparasha, it's more than enough to simply declare the color as orange, pink, orange. 2 times, I'm not crazy repeating 2 times the color. This is the proper way. When we have a 50-50% of 2 hues, we mention them 2 times. So orange, pink, orange. Okay. Okay, I don't see more question. Anna, you came in time to save me from the questions, right? Because it's getting too late. And since I'm very talkative, I must free the line. Okay, got you.
You answered all the questions, Fabio, I mean to say, as always. So you covered
I,
each of the questions. Yes, you covered each question. Yes.
yes, I don't see any more questions, so supposed to be fine. let's give them the last chance. If you have a last minute question, feel free, eh? Mm? And since I see many of my kids, I want to hug all of you. And when I say my kids, I mean my students. So a big hug to all of you. And you are many in this list. Now I can see the names. Before I couldn't.
Fabio, you got the last question, by the way.
What was the last question?
You can see it. You just got it.
Ah, yes, Karen. Which course to start with? Uh, no, also
No,
Diana.
there is one more question about that.
Oh, it's moving too much because every time you text a question, it's scrolling up or down. So I have a question about Parparasha. Dinara. Hmm. I remember that when beryllium diffuse treatment was introduced, there was a lot of controversy because yes, Dinara, correct. It's correct. Basically, the beryllium diffuse treatment is able to recreate the real color of Parparash, simply adding to already orange sapphire or pink sapphire the other hue. Hmm? Yes, that's correct. So it's again, it's dramatically important to determine the presence of, in this case, of the beryllium diffuse treatment in the corundum, whatever it is. Because if it is a color coming from the beryllium diffusion treatment, it's not a Parparash. It's not. Any color coming from the diffusion treatment, no matter what it is, it's not matching with the real color of the stone. So the name of the variety cannot be, in this case, Parparasha or even ruby, if it is a red color. Must be, I don't know, beryllium diffused corundum, the name of the variety. Orange pink, beryllium diffused corundum. But not even sapphire, because normally we used to mention sapphire even for the fancy sapphire. So color plus sapphire. Okay. Karen is asking which course to start with. Normally, we suggest to start with diamond and then to close the full journey in gemology with the color stones. It's a good way to start with diamond. But in any case, if for timing, for calendar, whatever you prefer, or you have to start from color stones, it's okay, it's the same. Mm. Ogusan, thanks to all of you, thanks to you, Ogusan, and thanks to all of you. Okay. Anand, I leave you the ending.
Thank you, Fabio. That was very insightful. I'm sure. I mean to say it was great to always have learnings from you. And thank you all the participants for joining in and sharing your valuable time. Our team will connect with you for all your further queries regarding the courses, upcoming courses, what HRD is going to offer as per the location. And you can please connect with my team and get all your queries resolved. So that's it from our side. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining in once again. Thank you, Fabio.
Thanks to all of you. Thank you very much.
And see you soon in the next seminar.
Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye,
Enjoy
Fabio.
the summer. Go to the beach.